In a distant kingdom of golden spires and vast emerald fields, King Edric ruled with wisdom and justice. His people adored him, his lands flourished, and his reign was marked by peace. Yet, time had caught up with the noble king, and his greatest concern lay not in war or famine, but in choosing a worthy successor. King Edric had no sons, only a daughter, Princess Elara. She was beautiful, kind-hearted, and intelligent, but many in the court doubted whether a woman could rule the kingdom alone. The noble lords and advisors whispered of strong generals, wealthy merchants, and potential suitors who could take the throne in her place. Some even suggested that a cousin or distant noble should rule instead. But King Edric had no intention of handing his kingdom over to strangers. He believed in his daughter, yet he knew that belief alone was not enough. The people needed proof of her worth. Thus, he devised a test, one that would challenge not only her intellect, but her strength, resilience, and compassion. Summoning Elara to the royal hall, he addressed her before the gathered court. His voice was steady, his gaze filled with both warmth and challenge. "My daughter, the time has come for you to prove yourself worthy of the throne. You will undergo 5 trials, each designed to test a different virtue of a great ruler. Only if you succeed in all 5 will you be declared the rightful queen of this land." Elara bowed her head, determination lighting her sapphire eyes. "I accept, Father. Tell me what I must do." The king raised his hand, and the royal steward stepped forward, carrying a scroll bound in crimson ribbon. He unfurled it and read aloud. "The first trial, the test of wisdom. You will journey to the mystic cavern in the east, where the oracle of Eldoria resides. She will pose a riddle that only the wisest may solve. Should you fail, you must return in shame. But should you succeed, you will earn the trust of the scholars and advisors who serve the crown." Murmurs rippled through the court. The oracle's riddles were legendary, known to stump even the greatest minds of the kingdom. Would the princess be able to succeed? Elara did not hesitate. She straightened her shoulders and met her father's gaze. "I will leave at first light." The next morning, clad in a simple riding cloak, she set out alone, refusing an armed escort. "A queen must face her challenges without relying solely on others," she explained. The journey was long and treacherous. The path to the mystic cavern wound through dense forests, jagged cliffs, and rushing rivers. Elara faced storms that soaked her to the bone and steep climbs that tested her endurance. But she pressed on, knowing that turning back was not an option. Finally, after 3 days, she reached the mouth of the cavern. A chilling wind howled through its entrance, and an eerie blue glow illuminated the passage ahead. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. Seated upon a stone throne at the cavern's heart was the oracle, a woman with eyes like silver moons, her presence both ethereal and powerful. She regarded Elara with an unreadable expression. "You seek the throne," the oracle intoned, her voice echoing through the chamber. "But wisdom is not merely knowledge. It is the ability to see beyond what is given. Answer me this riddle, and you may proceed on your path." She paused, then spoke. "I have cities but no houses. I have mountains but no trees. I have water but no fish. What am I?" Elara furrowed her brow, her mind racing. The oracle's riddle was deceptively simple, yet its answer remained just out of reach. She closed her eyes, focusing, blocking out all distractions. Then, suddenly it came to her. She opened her eyes and met the oracle's gaze. With confidence, she answered. Elara's voice rang clear in the cavern. "A map." The oracle's silver eyes gleamed with intrigue. A slow smile spread across her face. "You have answered correctly," she said. "A map has cities without houses, mountains without trees, and water without fish. You have passed the first test." Elara exhaled, relief washing over her. But the oracle was not finished. "Wisdom is more than solving riddles," the oracle continued. "It is knowing when to speak and when to listen. Before you leave, I will offer you knowledge of the future, but you must choose whether to hear it." Elara hesitated. She had always believed that a ruler should shape their own destiny. But what if knowing her fate could help her avoid disaster? After a moment of deep thought, she shook her head. "A queen must forge her own path, she said. "If I know the future, I might try to change it. I would rather trust in my choices and face what comes with courage." The oracle gave an approving nod. "You have wisdom beyond your years, Princess Elara. Go forth, and may you lead with clarity and foresight." With that, the blue glow of the cavern intensified, and in an instant, Elara found herself outside, standing beneath the open sky. Her heart swelled with triumph, but she knew the hardest tests were yet to come. She mounted her horse and rode back to the kingdom, where the court awaited her return. As she entered the great hall, murmurs of surprise and admiration rippled through the nobles. Few had ever returned from the oracle's cavern with success. King Edric smiled. "You have passed the first trial," he declared. "Now, prepare for the second." The royal steward stepped forward, unrolling the next scroll. The second trial, the test of strength. A ruler must be more than wise. They must be strong enough to protect their people. You will travel to the wildlands, where a monstrous beast terrorizes the villagers. The creature is too powerful for any ordinary warrior. If you can defeat it, you will prove that you have the strength to defend your kingdom. Elara's breath caught. A monster? She had trained in combat, but she had never fought a true beast before. Still, she refused to waver. "I accept this challenge," she said. Her father studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Then you leave at dawn." That night, as Elara prepared for her journey, she visited the royal armory. The blacksmith, a burly man with arms like tree trunks, bowed as she entered. "You'll need more than just courage to face this beast, princess," he said. He led her to a weapon wrapped in silk. When he unveiled it, Elara gasped. Before her lay a sword unlike any she had ever seen. Its blade forged from a metal that shimmered like moonlight, its hilt wrapped in leather worn from generations of use. "This was your great-grandmother's sword," the blacksmith explained. "She was the last warrior queen of this land. She used it to defend the kingdom in its darkest days. It is time it finds its way back into the hands of a true leader." Elara took the sword with reverence, feeling its weight, its history. She strapped it to her back and prepared for the journey ahead. At dawn, she rode toward the wildlands, the whispers of the court following her. Some doubted her, some feared for her, and some, in the shadows, hoped she would never return. As she crossed into the wildlands, the sky darkened. The air grew thick with the scent of decay. She had no idea what lay ahead, only that she would face it with everything she had. Elara rode deeper into the wildlands, the eerie silence pressing in on her. The land was unlike anything she had ever seen. Gnarled trees twisted toward the sky like skeletal fingers, and the ground was littered with the remains of abandoned villages. The air smelled of damp earth, and something far worse, the scent of death. She tightened her grip on her great-grandmother's sword. She had heard tales of the beast that plagued these lands, a creature so fearsome that even the bravest warriors had fallen before it. But tales were just words. She needed to see it for herself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she reached a village on the outskirts of the kingdom. A few survivors huddled in the ruins, their eyes hollow with fear. An elderly woman, draped in tattered shawls, approached her. "You are the princess," the woman said in a rasping voice. "You have come to slay the beast." Elara nodded. "Tell me what you know." The woman's hands trembled as she pointed toward the distant hills. "It comes with a mist. Its eyes burn like embers, and its breath is poison. It takes what it wants, livestock, crops, even people. We cannot stop it." Elara's jaw tightened. "Where does it make its lair?" The old woman hesitated before whispering, "In the caves beyond the river." "But child, no one who enters ever returns." Elara glanced at the villagers, some too weak to stand, others clutching their children in fear. She would not let them suffer any longer. "I will return," she said firmly. With her sword strapped to her back, she set off toward the river. The sky was dark, and a heavy fog curled around her legs like living tendrils. She reached the riverbank and found a shallow crossing. As she waded through the water, a distant growl rumbled through the trees. The beast was near. Elara pressed forward, heart pounding. The cave loomed before her, its entrance wide enough to swallow a carriage whole. The jagged rocks surrounding it were scorched, as if burned by something unnatural. Bones littered the ground, some still clad in rusted armor. She stepped inside. The darkness was suffocating, but ahead, a faint glow flickered. She drew her sword, its silver blade glinting in the dim light. Then a sound of deep, guttural breathing. A massive shadow moved. Two fiery eyes snapped open. The beast emerged from the darkness. It was unlike anything Elara had ever imagined. A monstrous creature with scales black as night, jagged horns curving back from its skull, and claws that could rip through stone. When it exhaled, a cloud of greenish mist spilled from its jaws, corroding the cavern floor where it touched. Elara steadied herself. "I am Princess Elara of Eldoria," she declared, "and I have come to end your reign of terror." The beast growled, its body coiling like a serpent preparing to strike. Elara didn't wait. She lunged, her sword flashing as she aimed for its chest. The beast reared back, swiping at her with claws the size of daggers. She barely dodged, rolling to the side as its talons carved deep gouges into the stone where she had stood. The fight began. Elara struck again and again, her blade finding its mark between the beast's armored scales. But it was fast, too fast. It lashed out, its tail catching her side and sending her crashing against the cave wall. Pain shot through her ribs, but she gritted her teeth and forced herself to stand. She had come too far to fail. Then, she saw at a weak spot, a thin scar along the beast's neck, where old wounds had not fully healed. She had one chance. As the beast lunged, she dodged at the last second and leapt onto its back. With all her strength, she drove her sword into the scarred flesh. The beast let out an earth-shaking roar, thrashing wildly. Elara held on, pushing the blade deeper. Finally, with one last cry, the beast collapsed. Silence filled the cavern. Elara pulled her sword free, gasping for breath. The beast was dead. She had won. But as she turned to leave, a voice echoed through the cave, a whisper, ancient and knowing. "You have slain the Guardian. But do you know what you have truly done?" Elara froze. Guardian? Dread curled in her stomach. Had she made a terrible mistake? Elara stood frozen, her pulse pounding in her ears. The whisper that had slithered through the cavern was not the voice of the beast. It was something else, something older. She turned slowly, gripping her sword tightly. The cave should have been silent now that the beast lay dead at her feet. Yet the air around her thrummed with an unseen presence. The ground beneath her trembled, and from the deep recesses of the cavern, an eerie glow flickered to life. Then a shape emerged, a figure, cloaked in flowing robes of shifting darkness, stepped forward. Its face was hidden beneath a hood, but its eyes, pale, ghostly orbs, pierced through the shadows. When it spoke again, its voice was neither man nor woman, neither young nor old. "You have undone what was meant to remain sealed." Elara tightened her grip. "Who are you?" The figure ignored her question, instead gazing down at the slain beast. For centuries, the Guardian held back the tide. Now, the gate stands unguarded. Elara's breath hitched. The gate, a slow, deliberate movement of the figure's hand, drew her gaze to the cavern walls. The glow intensified, illuminating symbols carved deep into the stone. Runes of warning, of binding, of protection. And at the far end of the cave, half buried beneath layers of rock, was something else. A door, massive and ancient, its surface was etched with the same symbols. Chains of pure light wrapped around it, pulsing as if struggling to contain whatever lay beyond. But as she watched, the chains flickered, dimming. And then they began to break. A deep, guttural sound rumbled from behind the door, like a beast awakening from the depths of the abyss. Elara took a step back, horror dawning on her. The Guardian, it wasn't terrorizing the land. Her voice came out hoarse. It was protecting us. The figure nodded. And now, the true darkness stirs. A crack splintered through the stone, and from within, a wind howled, cold and unnatural. Elara felt it in her very bones, a whisper of ancient malice, of something that had long been buried. She had made a mistake, a terrible, unforgivable mistake. "Can it be stopped?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. The figure tilted its head. Only if you were willing to pay the price. The cavern trembled, dust and rock falling from the ceiling. Whatever was behind that door, it was coming, and Elara knew. She had no choice but to face it. The cavern trembled as another chain shattered, sending a pulse of dark energy rippling through the air. The force of it knocked Elara to one knee, her sword clattering against the stone floor. The ancient door groaned, its bindings failing. The thing behind it was waking. Elara turned to the cloaked figure, her heart hammering. "What is the price?" The figure regarded her with its pale, ghostly eyes. "The guardian you slew was bound by an ancient oath, one that tied its existence to the seal. With it gone, the door will open." Elara clenched her fists. "Then how do I stop it?" The figure took a step closer, its form shifting like mist. "The seal must be reforged. A new guardian must take its place." A chill ran down her spine. And who would take that place? The figure lifted a hand, and a cold realization washed over Elara. She already knew the answer. "You," the figure said simply. Elara recoiled. "You mean I would have to become the guardian?" The figure nodded. "To bind the darkness, a soul must be offered in sacrifice. One who has slain the old guardian is bound by fate to take its place. That is the price." Elara's throat tightened. She had fought for years to become the warrior she was today, to break free from the expectations of nobility, to carve her own destiny. And now, she faced a choice that would end everything she had ever dreamed of. The cavern shuddered again, the cracks in the door widening. From within, a voice, low and malevolent, began to whisper, words she could not understand, yet they filled her mind with visions of fire and ruin. The figure extended a hand. "Decide quickly, Elara. If the door opens fully, nothing in this world will stop what comes through." Her breath came in ragged gasps. She thought of her father, her people, the kingdom she had sworn to protect. If she walked away, she could return to them. She could live, but they would not. She looked down at her hands, the same hands that had slain the beast she now understood had been the world's protector, the same hands that had unwittingly doomed them all. Her grip tightened around her sword. "I will do it," she whispered. The figure inclined its head. "Then kneel." Elara sank to her knees. The moment she did, a searing light engulfed her, wrapping around her body like burning chains. Pain lanced through her limbs as the magic of the ancient seal wove itself into her very soul. Her body twisted, changing. Her armor melted into her skin, her sword fusing with her very being. Her senses expanded. She could feel the pulsing energy of the seal, the hunger of the thing behind the door, the threads of fate shifting around her. She was no longer just Elara. She was the guardian. The final chain snapped, and the door burst open, revealing an abyss of endless darkness. A monstrous form began to emerge, its tendrils reaching for the world beyond. But Elara stood between it and the light. She raised her hand, and from her fingertips, the golden chains of the ancient seal lashed outward, wrapping around the creature, forcing it back. It roared in fury, its rage shaking the very foundations of the cavern. With one last surge of power, Elara sealed the door once more, binding the darkness behind it. The cavern fell silent. The world was safe. But Elara, she would never leave this place again. As the magic of the seal settled, the cloaked figure bowed its head. "It is done. You have saved them all." Elara gazed at the door, the prison she was now bound to for eternity. A sad smile crossed her lips. "This was always my fate," she murmured. The figure faded into the shadows, leaving her alone in the silent cavern. And so, the warrior princess who sought adventure became a legend, a name whispered in the echoes of time. A protector, unseen and forgotten, but forever watching.